The summer I turned pretty is not over yet. So, let's talk about this so-called season 4, or whatever they're calling it, a continuation. A new beginning, or maybe just damage control for that rushed season 3 finale. Because if you ask me, that ending felt way too sudden to be the true conclusion. Like, sure, Belly and Conrad are back together and they're in love again, but come on. Does anyone actually believe that everything is magically fixed now? I mean, after all that chaos with Jeremiah, after all those mixed signals, we're just supposed to believe it's smooth sailing from here? Yeah, I don't think so. The trailer hints that this next chapter picks up not long after Paris. You can just feel that tension between them still. It's that awkward, fragile kind of love where both people are pretending everything's fine. But you can tell it's not. Like, the smiles are there, but their eyes say something else entirely. And I swear, the more I rewatch it, the more I feel like Belly isn't as sure as she wants to be. Maybe she still loves Conrad, maybe she always did, but she also knows what it cost her, Jeremiah, her friends, her peace. So now, she's trying to hold on to this second chance like it's her lifeline, even though deep down she knows it could break her again. And let's not act like Conrad is doing any better. That man has been through it. He looks calm, sure, but there's that same quiet guilt in his face. Like he knows he might ruin things again without meaning to. Maybe that's why I can't tell if this trailer is teasing a love story or a slow heartbreak waiting to happen. There's this one quick moment, a flash of Belly alone at what looks like a wedding, and honestly, it says a lot. Could it be hers? Could it be someone else's? I don't know, but something about it feels way too symbolic. Like maybe this isn't about her ending up with someone at all. Maybe it's about her finally choosing herself, and that's the part that gives me chills, honestly. Because for 3 whole seasons, Belly's been torn between two brothers, trapped in this cycle of nostalgia and regret. But season 4 might finally be the moment she breaks that pattern. Maybe she's done living in the past. Maybe this time, the love triangle won't even matter anymore. That would be wild, right? To see a show that started as a teen romance end as something much deeper. A story about growing up. About forgiving yourself for who you used to be still. I can't shake the feeling that Jeremiah isn't done. Because we all know how these things go. He's quiet now, but that silence never lasts. And if that one blurry shot of him in the trailer means what I think it means, then buckle up. Because that man might be coming back with a vengeance. Not in a dramatic soap opera way, but in that calm, confident, I'm not giving up yet kind of way. And honestly, that might be exactly what this story needs. Because for all the romantic chaos, the truth is, this saga has always been about choices, and what happens when you finally have to live with them. So, if season 4 really is happening, it's not just about who Belly ends up with anymore. It's about whether she's truly grown, or if she's still chasing that same dream she's been holding on to since she was 15. And judging by the tone of that trailer this time, she might actually have to face the consequences of everything she's done, and everything she's lost along the way. Because as much as I love seeing Belly and Conrad together, something about this season feels different. It's quieter, heavier, more reflective. Like the calm before a storm we all know is coming. And I don't know about you, but I'm both nervous and excited to see where that storm takes us. Now here's the thing. If this new season truly picks up after Paris, then we have to talk about the emotional mess that Belly and Conrad are walking into. Because let's be real, love doesn't magically heal old wounds. It just makes them harder to ignore. And the way last season ended, it almost felt like both of them were pretending that everything from Cousins Beach never happened. Like all those fights, all that heartbreak. All those mixed feelings just vanished the moment they kissed again. But come on, we know better. We've watched them fall apart too many times to believe that they can just pick up where they left off. And the trailer seems to know that too. You can feel that awkward distance between them even when they're smiling. That kind of tension that only exists when two people are forcing something that used to feel effortless. There's a quick clip of them walking down the beach and it looks beautiful. Like everything we loved about this show, but something about it feels staged. Almost like they're trying too hard to recreate what they once had. Because the truth is, you can't go back. You can visit the same places, wear the same clothes, even play the same songs, but once time changes you, nothing ever feels quite the same again. And I think that's what season 4 is hinting at. That realization. That quiet moment when you finally accept that love isn't enough. If you're still haunted by who you were when it began, and that's exactly where Belly is right now. Torn between the person she's trying to become and the girl she used to be. I mean, let's not forget, Paris wasn't just a romantic getaway. It was her escape. A place where she could breathe again, away from all the noise, all the memories, and all the guilt that came with loving two brothers. And now she's back, walking right into the storm she thought she left behind. So yeah, maybe she looks stronger. Maybe she's finally owning her choices, but you can't ignore that look in her eyes. That same uncertainty. That same fear that maybe no matter how far she runs, she'll always end up back where she started. And honestly, that's what makes this new chapter so interesting to me. Because it's not just about romance anymore. It's about identity. About finding out who you are when the love story ends. And I think that's why so many people are connecting to this series. Not because of the love triangle, but because we've all been Belly at some point. We've all loved someone we weren't ready to lose, and we've all made choices that left us wondering, what if? That's what makes this show hit so deep. Beneath all the beach houses and summer lights, it's really about growing up. About realizing that sometimes love isn't a fairy tale, it's a lesson. And then there's Jeremiah. Because let's be honest, we all know he's not gone for good. The guy might be out of the picture for now, but there's no way they're done with him. The trailer barely shows him, but that's what makes it even more suspicious. Like they're hiding something. Maybe he's staying quiet for a reason. Maybe he's finally realizing that walking away doesn't mean you stop caring. And you can see it in those quick flashes, that one shot where he's looking out at the ocean. Alone. It almost feels like he's trying to move on, but can't, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Season 4 finally gave him his own story. Not as the guy fighting for Belly, but as someone learning to let her go. Because if there's one thing Jeremiah deserves, it's peace. And maybe this time he's ready to find it, but still, there's a small part of me that doesn't trust this peace. Because this series has a habit of luring us in with calm moments, before completely breaking our hearts again. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen. Maybe Conrad and Belly are finally together, but it's never been just about them, right? There's always something bigger, the families, the memories, Susanna's legacy. And if the trailer's tone tells us anything, it's that those ghosts aren't done haunting them yet. There's this one line, soft, almost whispered, that sounds like Belly saying, "It doesn't feel like summer anymore," and that hit me hard. Because that's it. That's the entire point. The magic of Cousins Beach, the innocence, the carefree summers, they're gone. And now, these characters are left standing in the aftermath, trying to figure out what comes next. And maybe that's what Season 4 is really about. Not finding a perfect ending, but learning to live after everything changes. Because as much as I love the idea of Belly and Conrad riding off into the sunset, I just don't see it being that simple. There's still too much left unsaid. Too much unresolved pain. And I think the show knows that. Which is why, even with all the romantic moments and nostalgic callbacks, there's this lingering sadness in every frame. Like we're watching something beautiful end right in front of us. And there's nothing we can do to stop it, and maybe that's the genius of the story. It makes you feel like you've grown up alongside them. Like you've lived through every heartbreak, every apology, every bittersweet summer. And now, as Season 4 approaches, it feels like we're saying goodbye not just to a love story, but to a part of ourselves that believed love could fix everything. So yeah, maybe the story continues. But this time, it's not about falling in love, it's about finally growing up enough to let it go. Alright, so here's where things start to get even more interesting, because if this new season really wants to dig deeper into the aftermath of everything that happened, then the emotional fallout is going to be massive. And I'm not just talking about Belly and Conrad's relationship. I'm talking about the entire world that revolves around them, the Fishers, the Conklins, and everyone who got caught in the middle of that messy love triangle. Because whether they like it or not, the choices they made didn't just affect them. They affected everyone around them. And now, all those consequences are finally catching up. Let's start with Laurel, Belly's mom. Because you just know she's not going to stay silent about any of this. The last time we saw her, she was proud of Belly for finding her own path, for choosing herself. And now suddenly Belly's back together with Conrad? I can already picture that tension. Laurel's protective, and deep down she knows how much pain this relationship caused her daughter. So no matter how mature Belly thinks she's become, Laurel's not just going to smile and pretend everything's fine. There's going to be that underlying concern, that motherly voice saying, "Are you sure about this?" And honestly, she might be right. Because every time Belly runs back to Conrad, it's like she's chasing the ghost of who they used to be, not who they are now. And then there's Steven. Oh, Steven, the unofficial voice of reason in this entire saga. He's been watching this love triangle spin in circles for years now. And I think he's finally reached the point where he's just tired. You can almost imagine him rolling his eyes in the trailer like, here we go again. But at the same time, Steven's one of those characters who loves deeply, even when he doesn't always say it. So you know he's going to stand by Belly no matter what, even if he secretly thinks she's making another mistake. And that's what makes him such an underrated part of the story. Because he's not there for the drama, he's there for the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts more than any breakup ever could. Now let's talk about Conrad himself. Because man, that guy carries guilt like it's part of his DNA. You can see it in every single expression, every word he says. He's the type who feels everything too deeply but never knows how to express it. And that's exactly what makes him both irresistible and infuriating. Like, he loves Belly, we know that. But he also doesn't know how to be with her without falling apart. It's that constant push and pull, that back and forth energy that keeps them trapped in the same loop. And the worst part is, I don't think he even realizes he's doing it. He wants to protect her, but at the same time, he's the one hurting her. And honestly, that's what makes their relationship so tragically real. Because sometimes love doesn't fail because it's not strong enough. It fails because people don't know how to carry it. And that's where I think season 4 might surprise us. Because if you pay attention to the tone of that trailer, the soft music, the slower pacing, the way every line feels like it's loaded with meaning, it almost feels like a goodbye. Not in a depressing way, but in a mature, accepting kind of way. Like the show is finally ready to close this chapter once and for all. Maybe not with a big dramatic ending, but with quiet closure. Something that feels earned. And if that's true, then this season might finally show Conrad doing what he should have done years ago. Letting Belly go for good. Not because he doesn't love her, but because he finally understands that sometimes love means stepping aside. And that's where Jeremiah comes back into the picture. Because let's be honest, his story's been hanging by a thread. We never got to see him truly heal from what happened. The way season 3 ended made it seem like he just magically moved on. But come on, no one moves on that fast from losing both a girlfriend and a brother's trust. So I wouldn't be surprised if we find him trying to build a new life. Maybe even pretending to be okay. But deep down, he's still carrying that pain. And maybe that's what brings him back to Cousins Beach, not to win Belly back, but to finally forgive himself. Because for the first time, Jeremiah might not be chasing love. He might be chasing peace. And that could be the most powerful part of his entire journey, and I know what you're thinking. If all three of them end up in the same place again, it's going to be chaos. And yeah, you're probably right. But maybe that's the point. Maybe this season is about confronting everything they've been running from. All those years of miscommunication, jealousy, regret, it's all finally coming to the surface. And honestly, I think that's exactly what the story needs. Because until they face it, none of them can really move forward. And maybe that's what the tagline in the trailer means when it says, "Every summer has an ending," because it's not just about this specific summer. It's about the end of an era, the end of innocence, the end of pretending that everything's okay when it's clearly not. And that line alone, it hits hard. It's like the show is preparing us for something final, something bittersweet. Because as much as we all love this world, we know it can't last forever. The characters have to grow up. The audience has to let go. And maybe, just maybe, this season is where both finally happen. So if you ask me, The Summer I Turned Pretty season 4 isn't going to be about who Belly chooses. It's going to be about what she learns, about herself, about love, about how sometimes the hardest thing in life isn't losing someone, but realizing you were never ready to keep them. And that, right there, might be the most emotional ending of all. And here's where things start to get a little darker, a little more complicated. Because even though this season might look like a love story reborn, there's a shadow hanging over it, one that's been growing since the very beginning. You can feel it in the tone of the trailer, that quiet sadness behind every smile. It's almost like the show is saying, this isn't the same world anymore. Cousins Beach isn't the dreamy escape it used to be. It's a place full of memories now, both beautiful and painful. And that's what makes it so powerful. It's no longer just a backdrop for a summer romance. It's the reflection of everything they've lost along the way. And I think that's what's going to hit fans the hardest this time. Because The Summer I Turned Pretty has always been wrapped in nostalgia, those lazy beach days, those late night talks, those innocent moments that felt endless. But season 4 seems to be taking all of that and turning it into something heavier, more emotional. Like the characters are realizing that growing up means looking back. And realizing that nothing gold ever stays. You can't relive the summers that made you who you are, and that realization alone. It hurts, and maybe that's the point. Maybe the show wants us to feel that ache. That quiet heartbreak that comes when you finally understand that some things end. Not because they should, but because they have to, and honestly, that's where Belly's story becomes something much deeper. Because yes, she's been the center of this love triangle from the start. But this season feels like it's shifting the focus inward. For once. It's not just about who she's choosing, it's about why she keeps choosing the way she does. There's this pattern in her life, rushing toward love like it's the only thing that defines her, even when it leaves her broken. And I think this might finally be the season, where she stops running after someone else's idea of happiness and starts figuring out what her own version looks like. Maybe that's why the trailer feels more introspective, because for the first time, Belly's looking at herself instead of the people around her. And that's something we rarely see in stories like this. Usually, the girl ends up with someone, and that's the big ending. But here, it feels like the real ending is about acceptance. Accepting that not every love story has to last forever to matter. Sometimes, it's enough to just know it changed you. And maybe that's what Belly's learning. Because even though she's loved both Fisher brothers in completely different ways, neither of them can fill the spaces inside her that only she can face. That's what makes this next chapter so emotionally charged. It's not about choosing between Conrad and Jeremiah anymore. It's about choosing herself for the first time, but of course, nothing in this show ever comes without a little chaos. Because if you noticed, there's a moment in the trailer where it looks like a letter, maybe from Susanna, appears again. And that instantly changes everything. Because Susanna has always been the emotional heartbeat of this story. Even years after her death, her presence is still shaping their lives. And if that letter really does show up, it's going to stir up every buried emotion. Maybe it's a message they never read, or something that brings them back to the beach house one last time. Either way, it's going to force everyone, especially Conrad and Belly, to face their past. And that's not going to be easy, because you can't move forward without finally making peace with what came before. And here's the thing, this season doesn't feel like it's going to hand us a clean, happy ending. It feels more like closure. The kind that's quiet, bittersweet, and real. The kind where everyone finally stops trying to rewrite the past and just accepts it for what it was, messy, beautiful, and completely human. Because that's what growing up really is, right? Learning to love the people who hurt you, forgiving the ones who didn't know better, and forgiving yourself for the times you didn't either. And maybe that's why. For all the heartbreak, this season might actually be the most hopeful one yet. Not because it promises a perfect future, but because it finally lets these characters let go of the pain that's been following them for years. Maybe Conrad learns to stop punishing himself for not being perfect. Maybe Jeremiah realizes he doesn't need to compete to be loved. And maybe Belly finally sees that she doesn't need anyone else to complete her. And if that's where the story ends, then honestly, it's the perfect way to say goodbye. Because after everything they've been through, maybe the real summer they all needed was the one where they finally learned how to stand on their own. So here we are, the final stretch. The place where everything this series has built toward finally collides. Because if the trailer is any indication, the Summer I Turned Pretty Season 4 isn't going to be soft or easy. It feels like a storm that's been waiting to break for years. Every secret, every confession, every unfinished conversation, it's all coming to the surface. And honestly, I think we're about to see these characters stripped down to who they really are when the nostalgia fades away. No more beach filters, no more romantic music, just raw emotions, messy decisions. And the truth they've been avoiding since day one, and let's be real, the truth is going to hurt. Because for all the dreamy moments and second chances, this story has always been rooted in heartbreak. The show makes you fall in love with summer, only to remind you that summer always ends. And that's what makes it so special. It doesn't hide from pain. It embraces it. It teaches you that endings aren't failures, they're transformations. So when I look at this trailer and see those flashes of the beach house, of Belly standing alone on the shore, I can't help but think this might be the final goodbye to Cousins Beach. The place where it all began. And now, the place where it might all end. But what I love most about this new chapter is how honest it feels. It's not pretending that love fixes everything. It's not selling us another fairy tale. Instead, it's showing that sometimes love teaches you the hardest lessons of all: patience, forgiveness, and letting go. You can see it in the way Belly looks at Conrad, not like a girl hopelessly in love anymore, but like a woman who understands that love comes with consequences. And the same goes for him. For once, he's not chasing after what he wants. He's trying to do what's right. That kind of growth doesn't happen overnight, and maybe that's the whole point. Because if season 4 really is the end, it's not about who ends up together. It's about what they've learned from breaking apart. And Jeremiah, well, I can't stop thinking about him either. There's something quietly heartbreaking about his journey. He started as the light, the warmth, the easy kind of love, and now, he's the reminder that sometimes being the good one doesn't mean you win. But maybe that's exactly what he needed. Maybe losing Belly forced him to find himself. To finally see that his worth doesn't depend on being someone's choice. And I have a feeling that if we see him again this season, it won't be as the jealous ex or the heartbroken brother. It'll be as someone who's finally found peace with his past. And that might be the most satisfying ending of all still. I can't shake the feeling that the show isn't going to let us walk away without one last emotional hit. Because The Summer I Turned Pretty has never been about giving us what we expect. It's about giving us what we need, even if it hurts. And I think season 4 is going to do exactly that. It's going to give us closure, but the kind that leaves a lump in your throat. That feeling where you know it's over, but you're still grateful it happened. Like that last sunset before the season changes, beautiful. But a little painful because you know it won't last forever. And that's what makes this series so unforgettable. It's not just about first loves or heartbreaks, it's about how those moments shape you, how they stay with you even after you move on. It's about the summers that change your life, the people who leave, and the lessons that stay. That's why, even if season 4 really is the end, it doesn't feel like a goodbye. It feels like a memory being tucked away, one you'll revisit someday when you're older. And it'll still make you feel something. Because that's what good stories do. They don't fade. They linger. So yeah, maybe the story continues, but maybe not in the way we think. Maybe it continues in the quiet way these characters live on in us. In every heartbreak we survived, in every person we let go of too soon. In every version of ourselves we had to outgrow. Because that's what The Summer I Turned Pretty has always been about, not just love, but the growing pains that come with it. So when that trailer says, the story continues, maybe it doesn't mean more episodes or another spin-off. Maybe it means that even after the credits roll, the feeling of the story, the warmth, the heartbreak, the nostalgia will always live on. And honestly, that's the kind of ending that hits the hardest. Because deep down, we all have our own version of Cousins Beach, and maybe, just like Belly, we're all still learning how to say goodbye to it.